to do this quick and brief video on the subject of weight fluctuations, daily weight, and influences and factors that affect the reading on the scale. Hopefully we can get a better understanding of the reasons and some of the variables that have an influence on this, so we become less frustrated when we do jump on the scale. Now, it's such a mainstream mentality that weight equals progress, and as we know, it's not the case. Over time, weight can mean a big thing. However, acute weigh-ins and fluctuations need to be addressed and understood through certain variables and factors. We can blame them. We can blame the mainstream media for this because they have such a depiction on the weight being the key factor in progression. If you aren't losing, then you aren't doing your job. You're not progressing. So, without delving too far into the science, we will run over some variables and factors that do influence the scale. One being sodium. Now, sodium, I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this. I'm sure you have, but if you do have a sodium spike, or you do have a higher day of sodium, the weight the next day or the day after will usually read higher. Now, this isn't always the case, but it happens. I've seen it happen, and the coaches have seen it happen. And if we only look at once a week weigh-ins, for example, and we don't track sodium, we wouldn't know that it was that meal or that higher sodium intake day that affected the scale. And this is why we're doing weekly weigh-ins and weekly averages, because it gives us a better understanding of overall weekly progress. And there's some other factors there that we look at as well. So sodium being a big indicator, but over time, if you stuck to the same sodium intake, which, I mean, usually we do find a level of habit with our food intake, but if we were consistently fluctuating our sodium intake, then it's fair to say that our weight will too rise and fall. Another indicator is calories. So obviously, if you're having a higher caloric intake the day before, technically you're going to have, and sometimes, but not all the time again, you will have a higher weight the next day. And this is what you guys have probably seen we're starting to do, is macronutrient averages as well on the spreadsheets. And I'm slowly getting around to putting all my clients onto this. But we want to see what your weekly average intake is. If, again, we worked off what you ate the day before and we work off the weight from the day before as well, it's a false reading. If, for example, you undereat on a couple of days, you overeat on the days after, but technically you're averaging the same macro and caloric intake, then it's a pretty valid indicator of weight. Again, there's other factors on top of these that affect it. If you're stressed, stress can play a whole bunch of influences on metabolism, how you look, how you feel. Obviously, you could have less caloric output in the gym, just overall moving less. You might be sick, you might be laying in bed more, you might be doing nothing because you just feel like crap. So I mean, all these add up. It's a multifactorial standpoint where all these things affect it. So another one is sleep. When I was prepping with Lane in 2012, towards the end of the prep, I would be helping my dad at the market. So I would be getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning and staying awake until about 11 a.m. So I would update Lane on Saturdays, and got to the point where weight was fluctuating like crazy, and I didn't understand why, and neither did Lane. But I never told him that I wouldn't be sleeping. It was about every second week, or sometimes every week. But from the week before to the week later, it was sometimes a complete crazy fluctuation, like a couple of kilos. And I never told him that my sleep on that Saturday morning was crap. I didn't sleep. I was awake all night, and that affected the scale. Now, I think there's research, and I think Ryan and Mike can probably look into this and delve into it more, but there's research showing that sleep affects glucose metabolism and plays around with hormones involved with upregulating metabolism as well. Basically, sometimes if you don't sleep, not all the time, but sometimes if you don't sleep, it can affect the reading on the scale. Water intake's another one. You drink a lot of fluid leading to the day of the weigh-in. Given that it was one weigh-in, this is in dramatic circumstances, we wouldn't have a true indication of, okay, well, this person just drank 10 litres of fluid and the next day they're 1.5 kilos heavier. Oh, you know, it must be that donut I ate 2 weeks before, or 2 days before, so, and yeah, let's blame the donut. But no, it's a bunch of factors. So I hope that clears things up. I mean, there's probably other factors that I'm forgetting and issues that affect the scale. Also females and hormonal time of the month. We've seen some crazy fluctuations in weight and in regards to fluid retention, and sometimes this messes, particularly females, their confidence and their thought process of progression. So if we now understand and have a better concept of all these influences on the scale weight, hopefully we, again, as I said at the start, we become less frustrated. So always take into account what's happened during the week. Be honest with the coach. Fill in the spreadsheet. Add all the information that you can, so we have a bunch of data points that we can use to do more of an educated understanding and move for your next progression. So thanks, and if you have any other questions, just let us know. I hope that clears up some of your understanding of why the weight moves daily. Don't freak out and have a good one. I forgot this.